Environmentalist Tzeporah Berman, our guest. She's working with Greenpeace at the moment, also Forest Ethics, Power Up, and with Mark Laren-Young to write this book. Why him? Playwright, funny guy.
Mark is an incredibly funny guy, and I really enjoyed working with him. He's a great writer, and I wanted to write a book that people had fun reading the stories, and it inspired them to work on environmental issues. And you know, let's be frank, environmental issues can be depressing. And, you know, environmentalists can be pretty dogmatic. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do either of those things. I really wanted people to have fun with the stories and to be inspired to work on the issues. And Mark and I had a lot of fun writing the book.
And it will also encourage young people who would like to become rabid environmentalists to get there.
I hope so.
There's a lot of fun in the book and a lot of serious issues being explored, like tar sands.
Yeah.
Oil sands. What do we call them?
Well, I call it tar sands because that's what it is in the beginning. You know, when people think of oil fields, they think of, you know, we drill down and a gusher comes out. That's not what's happening in Canada. We are logging the forest as quickly as we can. Then we're scraping away the earth, literally. We're pumping water and steam through it in order to separate the tar from the sand, and then it becomes oil. It's one of the dirtiest and most destructive projects on Earth. It's the project with the biggest environmental footprint. And, you know, I'm working in 40 countries right now. This project has, you know, the tar sands in Canada are pumping out 1.5 billion liters of toxic water a day into open pit lakes that we don't know what to do with.
All in the interest of domestic oil, weaning ourselves off crude from Saudi, or why?
No, we're exporting.
What's the drive? Exporting.
The drive is profits. I mean, let's look at one company. Shell made $1 billion last month. These are companies making enormous amounts of money. And the crazy thing about our energy policy today is that we're handing them money. You know, we give Canada, the federal government gives oil companies in Canada tax breaks and subsidies of $2.5 billion in the last 2 years. So we're handing oil companies taxpayers' money, and then they're making enormous profits, and they're polluting our country, and they're exporting the oil. It's not ensuring our own energy security, which is not to say that there isn't benefits to the economy. There are. But what I say in the book, and what a lot of experts are now saying, is that we can shift to producing energy from renewable sources. We can ensure that our economy moves towards a low-carbon economy and still create those jobs. We need a moratorium on development in the tar sands right away.
But you point out time and again in this book that we know how. We can construct a clean energy policy that makes perfect sense, but we don't. No. How do you make something like that a wedge issue in an election?
I think
in a national election.
I think there's no question is that we need more people to engage. And I think the big problem is that if you're not, you know, a full-time activist, you look at these issues and you might be concerned about them, but then you're told to change your light bulb. You know, you're told to walk to work. And we need to change our lifestyle, but that's not enough. We need people to engage with their decision makers. It means standing up and dusting off those placards from Clackwood Sound and protesting. It means writing to your MLA or MP, asking for a meeting. We really need people to engage, and I'm excited to hear that people are planning to. You know, next week, September 26th, there is a protest planned in Ottawa. I think it's going to be the biggest civil disobedience since Clackwood Sound.
Will you be there?
I will be. And people can get information at ottawaaction.ca, and there's over 400 people have signed up to protest.
As a young activist, you were most willing to be arrested, and you were. Still willing?
Absolutely. And I actually think it's more important today than it ever was for Canadians to stand up, because we have some of the weakest laws in the world. You know, last year there was a ranking of 60 countries on their climate and energy policies and laws, and Canada ranked 57th out of 60. You know, we're just above Saudi Arabia. We have, you know, we're polluting more today than we did yesterday, and we're being left behind. It's not just about doing the right thing. The global economy is moving to renewable energy. Last year was the first year in human history that new investment in solar and wind exceeded investment in coal, oil, and nuclear combined.
So what do you think is behind that? Who is behind that? Or do we not believe
China.
it? China.
I mean, I joke, but it's true. China's the biggest investor in renewable energies. We talk a lot about how China's building coal plants, but they're also putting up a new wind turbine every hour. That's how many wind turbines in China last year. And so they're leading in the development of renewable energy. But then we also have countries like Germany. You know, they're leading in the development of solar panels and solar energy because their government passed laws that give tax incentives and encourage companies to produce renewable energy instead of tax incentives and encourage oil sands.
But as you know so well, we go up and down. When Jimmy Carter was in the White House, he put solar panels on the White House.
Yeah.
And was laughed out of the White House pretty much for solar panels, and then Reagan came in and took them away.
Yeah, we do go up and down, but now we're on a solid trajectory. So renewable energy investment has increased 700% since 2004. We're on a solid trajectory globally, but Canada is not.
One of the most critical things I think you've learned through all of this, and you suggested in the book, is that we're too quick to slap labels on almost everything, especially on people who work in corporations or as flax or spinners. You know, you know what it's like. You've been called many names.
I have.
Hippie environmentalist, and then if you're a corporate person, you're a corporate flack, and if you're a government, you're a stooge. You know, and it's not effective. It really isn't.
No.
Or eco-zealot, not effective.
No, what I talk about in the book is the importance of being able to debate the issues without attacking people personally, without backing them into a box and into a corner. I think especially with the issues that we're facing today, we need to be able to give everyone the capacity to do the right thing, whether they're right or left. You know, that's, you know, what I talk about in the book, my struggle with the NDP, for example, during the last election, because they took a position against the carbon tax. And, you know, a lot of people assume if you're an environmentalist, you're left. But if you look at some of the leadership we've seen around the world, it's coming from Angela Merkel in Germany. It's coming from, you know, Schwarzenegger in California.
Stefan Dion.
Yeah. And so my point in the book really is that we have to be able to create a dialogue and create the conversation with everyone, no matter what part of society they come from.
And in some of your campaigns, you have used celebrities. You were in DiCaprio's 11th Hour in the documentary. Paris Hilton, met her. Is that effective or not?
Absolutely. I spent about 34 seconds with Paris Hilton, and I did interviews in 17 countries as a result of those 34 seconds. You know, and so it's, you know, a lot of people can say, you know, well, you know, she doesn't really understand the issues and you know, and be cynical about celebrities and celebrity engagement. But the fact is, we need all the tools in our toolbox. And I had more 14-year-old girls writing to me about these issues because they saw that picture of Paris Hilton, you know, than ever before. And I think that's great. You know, we need to reach the mainstream. We need to talk to people from all walks of life. And so the celebrity work that I've done, you know, engaging celebrities, inviting them to come to our events, you know, being photographed with Paris Hilton, it's been incredibly useful.
Sure, and your moment of fame often was watching yourself being arrested on television, on national television.
I did. I was arrested in Clackwood Sound, and then I was charged with 857 counts of criminal aiding and abetting, and I was facing 6 years in jail. And I tell the story about being in prison and ending up just by fluke watching myself be arrested on television. Twice, actually, that time, and also when I was arrested in the port here in Vancouver for protesting the export of raw logs.
I remember that. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Tzeporah Berman with Mark Laren Young, This Crazy Time Living Our Environmental Challenge.